God gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. Put it in the soul of everyone.
Hey, hey, yeah, Railroad song.
Hello, friends, and welcome to our first episode of Season 2 of Area 312 Rock and Metal Vodcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, having a bad hair day, along with my co-host,
Mike.
Friends, today we are welcoming our very special guest, Miss Lisa Carone. Welcome, Miss Lisa.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Yes,
How are you
ma'am.
guys?
So,
Good.
friends, if you don't know the name Lisa Carone by heart, you might know Miss Lisa as Stryper Sis. Her maiden name is Sweet. Miss Lisa Sweet, she is the sister of Robert and Michael Sweet, daughter of Phil and Stryper mom, Miss Janice Sweet. And again, it's just a pleasure to have you, Miss Lisa. I'd like to qualify, if you'll permit me. We had reached out to Miss Lisa quite a while back. Back when we were actually strictly doing Stryper Drive. And Miss Lisa, she didn't initially see our message. Well, quite a ways down the line, she got back in touch and she said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I somehow missed your message." But she said, "Certainly, I'd love to do an interview." And she said, "But good news." She said, "I'm releasing a new single." And so here we are. We're going to talk about this wonderful single, and we'll get into all of that in a little bit. So, friends, what I'd like for you to know is that half of this interview, it's two sides of the same coin. We wanted to get initially Miss Lisa's perspective about being Stryper Sis and growing up Stryper, if you will. Her perspective on the whole Stryper journey while she was, in the 80s and whatnot. And then we're going to be getting into her newly released single, released just about a couple months ago. So, Miss Lisa, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, Miss Lisa, just please tell us about growing up in the Sweet family household. Your parents were involved with music, as were your brothers. Was there plenty of family singing growing up?
Always. From the time we were little kids, I'm talking like 3, 4, 5 years old. My grandmother would line us little kids up because we're all about a year and a half apart. Line us all up, give us our harmony parts, and us kids are doing 3-part harmony to songs like I Don't Want to Have to Marry, not I Don't Want to Have to Marry, Make the World Go Away. I'm stuck on that. Make the World Go Away, some old classic standards, and she'd give us a quarter, so we didn't care. We'd just do it because we everything was revolved around music. We go to Sunday church. My grandmother would make Sunday supper, and we'd have a jam session for like 5-6 hours. All kinds of musicians dropping by, people lining up on the sidewalk, neighbors listening, clapping. That wasn't unusual. So by the time the guys started forming, their garage band kind of thing, people started gathering. They started getting a following little by little. And then, when it evolved into, Stryper, from Rock's Regime to Stryper, then it just kind of exploded.
Sure. And it did explode.
Yeah, it did.
I've gotta get it way down in my brain. The way to get it is on that glory train. 'Cause once you're on that rail, you really start to roll.
Miss Lisa, now your brothers, I've read Mike's book, honestly, Michael's book. And, he kind of recounted from his perspective, he and Robert were young and music bug bit him. Miss Lisa, did you gravitate toward the music as your brothers did, or was it a little more gradual, or did the music bug just bite you full on too from the time you were young?
It affected all three of us the same way. It just didn't work out for me like it did for them. But we joined the church choir when we were teens. we went to convalescent homes and prisons to perform, as Sweet Family. So it's something we did, my brothers and I did a talent contest at our elementary school, stuff like that, so yes, it just, I think by the time I hit my teenage years, I think I was a little bit more shy as far as my talent went, and the guys were very bold, so I think that's where we kind of differed a little bit, and I kind of excelled more in school and they kind of, did the music thing.
Lisa, what's your birth order in the family?
I'm the middle child, the troubled one.
Okay.
Oh, so you heard it first here, friends. Miss Lisa said earlier that she went to prison, so we'll write that down for the record.
To build up steam, you gotta travel all night, your railroad soul. Railroad soul, yeah. Railroad soul.
I was 8 years old, and me and my parents and my brothers went around. Like, I remember distinctively going to Chino prison, and there's these real big guys in orange jumpsuits sitting in the pews, and we're performing, and it's a bit intimidating when you're 8, but I just rolled with it.
Live at Folsom Prison, Miss Lisa.
Yeah.
So, Miss Lisa, what was your favorite genre of music while growing up, and who were some of your personal influences?
I think I definitely swayed towards country. A lot of my and rockabilly. I grew up in a household where Elvis was real big. We always listened to Elvis, but we always also listened to kind of 50s classics, like Fats Domino and oh gosh, the guy who I'm kind of drawing a blank. My dad would kill me right now that I can't recount some of these. I'm not good. I'm the person in the family that's not good with names. Robert can remember dates, times, names, places like you wouldn't believe. Okay, but I can't remember stuff like that.
Well,
I don't know what it is. I can remember melodies, but I can't remember people's names and stuff.
Well, let's play a little trivia then. If you can remember the title of the song or something like that, we'll see if we can guess who you were thinking of.
Oh, I'm thinking of the guy that does Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, Jerry Lee
Jerry
Lewis.
Lee Lewis.
Yeah, yeah. And all those guys that came from that era, that did that kind of music. We listened to a lot of that kind of stuff. And then, my dad started co-writing with Fred Imus back in the late 60s and 70s. And so therefore we started listening to a lot of country music, a lot of the classics, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
Those type people.
Waylon Willie and the Boys.
Yeah.
So-
Chris Christopherson, those people.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the good stuff. And so, Miss Lisa, at this juncture then, my parents listened to, excuse me, as it was called in the early, through the 70s, it was called country western. And
Right. I didn't want to use that term, but yes,
No.
you're right.
that's what it was when I grew up with it,
I'm going to let you date yourself there.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing, and I find this fascinating. My parents listened to country western music in the 70s.
Mhm.
In 1976, I was 5 years old. And I distinctly remember hearing on the radio this song that said, I don't want to have to marry you. I don't want to have to say I do. I want our marriage to be free the way God meant love to be. I'm reciting all that from memory, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I heard it. And I vividly remember that song. And in 1984, one of my favorite bands became this band that yielded those colors as your flag back there. And that band, of course, was Stryper. And then lo and behold, in Michael's book, honestly, and I was reading, purchased it when it came out several years ago now, your dad was a co-writer of that song. Red
Yes.
Eyes. And
Yeah.
so in my world, I had a connection to the Sweet family in the 70s, before
Right.
Stryper became one of my favorite bands. Miss
Yeah.
Lisa, how did your dad let you guys know? How did he explain to you, hey guys, with Fred Imus, I wrote this hit and it's on the radio. I mean, tell us about it.
Well, this is how I remember it. I mean, you got to remember we're little kids. So it was just, Fred would come over to the house probably once a week, and my dad and him would sit down and just kind of for hours just, play and write songs. And so as a little kid, you don't think much of that. He was, always really nice and friendly. And then one day, I mean, you knew something was happening, okay, because you overhear conversations here and there. But then all of a sudden, we're in our, uh, I don't know if it was a Lincoln Continental or a Lincoln something like that, one of those big boat cars, right? And we're driving in it, and all of a sudden the song comes on the radio, but it's not our folks singing it. Like we heard our folks singing this song in the house way before it came on the radio, and we're like, okay, we know that song, okay, but that's not our mom and dad singing it. That's somebody else singing it. It's a little bit different rendition, a remake of it. But we were thrilled, but we didn't really understand what that meant. It was just exciting for it to be on the radio, but it's like, okay, but now what does that mean? And so my parents did kind of sit us down and explain what was happening with the song and what that meant for us as a family.
Mm-hmm. I bet your dad was happy.
Oh, he was thrilled. He was thrilled. He went to, Memphis to get an award, for it. So song of the year, single of the year.
Yeah. And that was Jim Ed Brown and Helen Cornelius that sang the song.
Yes.
So.
And then once it took off, it was played regularly over and over to where we're going, okay, when's this going to stop?
Oh my goodness.
No, but it was great. It was very thrilling. I mean, but we were little kids, and when you're a little kid, everything is magnified,
Sure.
But it was a very exciting time.
I don't wanna have to marry you. I don't wanna have to say I do.
Just quickly, so now I'm just thinking about Robert and Michael, and I mean, basically from what you're describing, obviously faith was a part of your lives growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard about how Robert and Michael have talked about how kind of during the evolution of the band there, at some point they made a recommitment to their faith, and out of that really Stryper was born.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious what your faith journey was like in your life. Were you pretty steadfast throughout, or did you experience something like they did? Or
here's what happened: we as a family, we all accepted the Lord as our Savior. I think I was probably around 12, 13, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
And then we all started going to church heavily. Started really getting involved with the church. I got married at 18. So right about that time is when I kind of, went a little different road. And then probably when I was about 23, 24, I went to go work for the Stryper offices, the management offices. And I worked, under Janice.
Mhm.
And I was in charge of managing their fan list, which was quite an undertaking when I came on. They had no computer system. And back then, this was DOS days, okay? So we're talking really not advanced, computers like today. And it was in this really large house that we operated out of. And she took me to this 3-car garage where there were stacks and stacks of those 5 and 6 tier metal shells where those mail bins were, every shelf was completely full, top to bottom, stacked with bins of fan mail that were full, and it was a 3-car garage full of these things. And it was a task. You know, I worked for them probably for about a total of 9 years in their offices. And so that was my job, was getting all their fan mail into a computerized mailing list that we can send out itineraries and various newsletters and things like that. So working in the office, it was kind of like a twofold service that we provided to the fans. Some people would call in for, you know, merchandise, information, itinerary stuff, you know, the basic stuff that you would want to know information about a band. And then there was another side where people were very troubled. They were dealing with alcoholism, drugs, suicide attempts, you know, troubled teens for the most part. And they wanted prayer. They wanted to have some sort of connection that was a little bit deeper than just a fan listening to a band, you know. And we provided that service back to them. You know, oftentimes, you know, office staff, including myself, spent hours and hours on the phone, you know, kind of just talking with people and praying with them. So it wasn't an unusual thing at all.
So would you say that drew you deeper into your faith going through
I
that?
think so. I think
Yeah.
so. We
Yeah.
did daily Bible studies. You know,
Yeah.
that was part of the office people, that, you know, prayer. And we started our day out with a little 30-minute Bible study, and then did some prayer. And I think that, you know, strengthened my faith, you know, through time.
Good.
So I'm going to skip around just a touch, Miss Lisa, because you talking about that right there, how y'all sorted through the bins of mail, and people in the Stryper office, including you, would spend time speaking with the people who needed maybe some help in life,
Right.
different from the fan mail. Kind of brings me to this one point here. From this fan's perspective here, back in the 80s, I mean, I wore Stryper and other bands on my proverbial sleeve back then. And I recall a lot of controversy from others back in the 80s, many from the religious crowd, and I don't mean Christian. I have a distinction between Christian and religious. Many from the religious crowd questioned me for liking Stryper and accused the band and others of being sheep in wolf's clothing. And many of my mainstream musical peers, they kind of dismissed Stryper because of their Christian content message. So, Miss Lisa, I guess what I'm saying is, boy, if we had some of the ways of information today, like to readily hear what you just told us, you know, what you got, the pain and labor you guys would go through to help people. Did you ever witness any of this controversy back in the day? And if so,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there were people that picketed their shows, you know, out front, you know, and it was hard at times to understand that these were supposed to be the people that you thought would, you were on the same side, kind of sort of thinking, you know, like, aren't we all in this together? You know, I mean, you know, but their view towards the band was very judgmental, you know. I mean, they really didn't give them a shot to really even, you know, kind of prove what they were about. You know, it was just kind of like damnation from the beginning for a certain groups of people, you know. And as through time, those people, they just kind of quieted down, you know, because we did a lot of prayer, you know, to kind of combat that. And I think the Lord just kind of took care of it, you know.
So that's,
just, you know, I think their thing was, the Lord just wants us to stay focused and do our thing, and we don't need to worry about this. He'll take care of that, you know.
that kind of answered my next question. I was going to ask, how did the Sweet family handle this situation with all this stuff hitting you guys, so mostly prayer, you said. So
360. So get your tickets. Let's take a ride. You gotta feel it.
So Miss Lisa, I have brothers and sisters, and we're close, but we had a little sibling rivalry going on. I'm just curious, did y'all have a little sibling rivalry between you and your brothers?
When we were little, I think when we were little, we had a tad of it, but if anybody said anything bad about us outside, forget it. We're coming at you with all three of us,
Yeah.
But no, I love my brothers. I think we all love each other and have a respect and admiration for each other. So, everybody's doing their own thing as adults. Everybody's got their own thing, but when we come together, it's pretty cool because it seems like no time has passed and we just kind of cut up and laugh and
Yeah.
just do our thing.
So when did it first hit you? I don't know if it ever seemed mundane to you, all the practices your brothers had in your garage, but when did
It was
first-
relentless too, by the way. Those practices. I shared a wall with the garage that they turned into a studio. And so I had to listen to my brother's drumming every day. And I knew he was getting better and better. I didn't really mind all that much, except when I was trying to study. Okay. But for the most part, I knew they were getting better. And I, it was never a matter of me thinking, well, I wonder when my brothers are going to make it. It was a matter of when, not if, because they just work so hard at it from such a young age,
You gotta hear me if he's down in your soul. You got what you need and you're on a roll. Once you're on that rail, you really start to roll.
Miss Lisa, this brings us to your new Christian rock single, Railroad Song. What was the catalyst, Miss Lisa, for you embarking on this project?
Well, I had been working on a compilation album with my mom. We've been doing that. Actually, it's been a slow project. It's kind of been evolving over a couple of years. We're taking some original country duets that we did years ago for one of our demos, and actually Robert and Michael played on it, and Michael produced it. And it's about a 4-song demo. So we were going to take some of those songs, work with some remakes of some different songs, not necessarily country, but just kind of a compilation of different genres of music. And we're still working on that. But from that, I worked with Bill Menchen in the studio for that project with Janice. And I started talking to Bill about some of his singles that he's done. And I heard some of the songs because he was playing them for me. Some of the songs that my dad was doing some of those whistle sounds and stuff on. And I heard Railroad Song, and I looked at him and I said, do you mind if I redo that song? Like I like all the instrumental, the backups, all that stuff. I just want to redo the lead. What do you think? And he's all, yeah, let's do it. So we did it. And I'm like, well, okay, what do I do with this song now? Cause I really didn't have a plan or anything. It wasn't a premeditated thing. It was kind of in the beginning. It's like, hey, let's kind of fool around with it and see what happens, And the more I did it, the more I thought, well, why don't I at least just release it as a single, and see what happens. I mean, I don't have any expectations at all. I couldn't even tell you how many times the song has been downloaded. I haven't looked. Honestly, it's really just something I wanted to do. I felt led to do. I didn't know why. So I just did it. And
Yeah.
And even if it speaks to just one person, it was worth it,
Well,
because it is a salvation song.
oh yeah, yeah, and well, first let me just say, friends out there, if the name Bill Menchen isn't ringing any bells, And it should be. But Mr. Bill Menchen, he has released stuff under his own surname, but also with Final Acts and Titanic and other bands. He's a rocker. Miss Lisa, your song, here's how it spoke to me. Now, of course, I picked up on the message, of Railroad Song, and it's wonderful. I had not previously heard Bill's version. Friends out there, if you haven't already heard Miss Lisa's single, I really encourage you to check it out because now, Miss Lisa, I'm not a country music aficionado. I was country when country wasn't cool, back when Barbara Mandrell was letting me know I could eat crackers in her bed anytime, right?
Yeah.
I got my ticket, I'm gonna take a ride. I got a feeling way down deep inside.
I got my ticket, gonna take a ride. I got to feel it way down deep inside. I had to get it.
Miss Lisa, when I first heard your single, me not being a modern country aficionado, I was like, Miss Lisa sounds to me like Wynonna Judd. And I'm like, but I haven't listened to Wynonna in a while. So I actually went back to YouTube to listen to a little bit of Wynonna. And I'm like, by golly, I think I'm right. And I messaged you and I said, and so here's this rocking song that Bill was playing. And your dad, as you mentioned, is doing backing vocals and the whistle blow and stuff. But your voice, it's very rich and expressive in its timbre. And it does have it's in the same wheelhouse as Wynonna. I was actually extremely impressed. I wasn't sure what to expect. But you're delivering the goods, and you've got it.
Oh well, thank you. I've been an admirer of Wynonna. I've done a lot of her songs, with my country band that I had, and Trisha Yearwood, Wynonna, Shania Twain, Faith Hill, Pam Tillis, Patty Loveless, Reba. These are all people that were inspirational to me in country music. So if that's what you heard, that's awesome. I would say out of all the people, all of the female singers in country music, she's probably the one that I would pick out that I sound the most like if I had to choose someone. So kudos.
Yes, and kudos to you because you have a wonderful voice. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned your country band. Let's talk about that country band. Please tell us the name and just give us some history of your country band that you had.
Okay. It was called Lisa Marie Sweet and Shiloh. And my dad was actually also in the band. He was one of my alternate lead singers and rhythm guitarists. I had about, 6 people in the band. My drummer was a guy named Nick, who was also one of the drum techs for Stryper on tour. I did that for a few years, and I would have to say that working with a country band, playing, local bars and venues and things like that. We did play in Laughlin at the Riverside, but it was tedious. I'm not going to lie. It was tedious.
Yep.
There's things I think a female singer has to deal with in that kind of environment that, gets a little old.
Sure.
But my dad was always there. Like, do you need any help? I'm like, I got this.
Yeah. Your dad probably packing some brass knuckles or something, so I get it. I
have my own security.
That's right. Now, Miss Lisa, you mentioned this project with your mom, and you had also mentioned recording some other songs with Bill. I'd like to ask, are there plans, these other songs that you had mentioned that you had recorded with Bill, were these for the album project with your mom, or is this something separate?
It's well, so far we've done several songs, and it was with the intention of doing that with the compilation album with my mother. But then I started talking to Bill about doing Railroad Song, and then after we completed Railroad Song, I said, well, maybe I ought to take a look at some of your other songs. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So I haven't been back in the studio for that, but I hope to be soon. And because I really feel led, like, I'm not a youngster anymore, okay, but I still have a talent that I would like to at least get some music out there, because I don't need to tour or anything like that. You can do music in different ways these days. It's just something that I would like to do for myself personally, as a personal goal or a personal achievement, just to say, hey, I finally got some music out there to the public, because
Sure.
it seems like I've been doing music my whole life, but not a lot has been publicly done, even though I did do the whole thing where you're singing in clubs and bar thing,
Mhm.
So just
Well,
something I want to pursue.
Your brother, of course, Michael, is a renowned vocalist.
Hmm.
But after hearing you, I just want to say, Michael Sweet, eat your heart out. Make room. Make room for Lisa Carone.
My brother's a fantastic singer. And, really, I really think, we come from a family of a lot of singers, not just Michael. There's my dad. My mom's a fabulous singer. I sing. We have aunts and uncles, cousins that sing, so it's not unusual in our family for there to be a lot of singers and musicians.
Well, Miss Lisa,
Well, and
go ahead, Mike.
it's impressive to me that, as much as you've talked about country in your background, that you took this song, which really came across in this case as more of a rocker, and
Right.
handled that very well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
It's just the way that I heard it in my head when I heard the
Yeah.
song. I really dug the guitar sound and that chicka chicka chick thing,
Yeah.
but the way I hear myself singing it is different than the way Bill sang it. And if I don't know, does a country spin from the vocals kind of come out on that or something? I didn't really think I was doing that, but if it did, that's okay.
The song almost has kind of a hybrid quality to it, where it's a rocker, but yet it has these elements of things that you would get from a country song at the same time.
Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, Miss Lisa. Your vocals are dynamic. And you just have this expression. There is soul in there. There's rock in your voice. Back to Winona. I know that Winona is primarily a country artist. I don't think that her voice can be pigeonholed. And your voice has soul in there. It's got that country in there. It also has that rock feminine grit, if you will. I don't know how to describe it. You just have this, you just sing with charisma, is all I can say. I didn't know what to expect, but I certainly was impressed. And we wouldn't, I mean this as a compliment. I'm going to be very honest. We would not be talking about your single if it wasn't something we should be talking about. But we should be talking about your single and your music.
Okay.
Because you are wonderful.
Thank you.
I really do hope you will consider, the reason why I asked about, well, two things. I am hoping that you will do more songs and release an album of your of solo Lisa, Lisa Carone. I'm also hoping you will release this album with your mom. I think that would be wonderful, certainly. When
Uh-huh.
might we, and you've mentioned that you're just now talking to Bill about looking at some other things. Miss Lisa, when could we possibly expect this album with your mom, a release for that?
Oh gosh. I'm hoping that at least by this next year that it will be released, because majority of it is done. You know, her and I kind of go back and forth a little bit. You know, you got to remember, my mom is not a spring chicken. Okay, she's kind of up there, and I'm thankful that she can even continue. She wants to continue to do music. You know, but we're almost done. We probably need to record maybe about 3 to 4 more songs, and then we can think about, you know, of course I'll have to do the artwork, and then we can you know, think about getting it released. But you know, my mom, you know, in the midst of us doing this, it's like she was working on several things too. She released my dad's Frank Sinatra tribute CD.
The Reflections?
Yeah. So that was just a couple of months ago. So, you know, we're going to swing back to it right after holidays. And I'll be talking to Bill too about more of
Yeah,
stuff
and Bill's a
that-
terrific songwriter.
I really think he is. You know, I think he's got some great stuff.
Miss Lisa, okay, first of all, for those who have not heard your single yet, where might one go in order to either purchase a download or at least listen to Railroad Song? What's a good place for people to check it out?
Well, I think now I'm drawing a blank.
Are you on
I was just-
Spotify?
Yeah, and
I
I
am
just
on Spotify.
played it a little bit ago on YouTube Music. So,
Did you find it on YouTube? I tried to find it
Yeah.
on YouTube and I couldn't.
well, on
find it.
YouTube Music. So if you subscribe to their,
I know
yeah,
it's on Apple Music
Yeah.
and all the top, you know,
yeah,
music providers right now. It's available, but you just search it out with Railroad Song, Lisa Carone, Caron. It'll pop up.
Very cool. Very cool. Miss Lisa, if fans and friends wished to reach out to you, what would be the best outlet for them to do so?
Well, I'm on Facebook under Lisa Carone. So you can find me there. You can probably email me. I don't know if should I give out my email address? Probably not a good idea. How about a phone? No, I'm just kidding.
So
Facebook is probably the best place to find me.
wonderful. Okay.
Hear that whistle blow. Save my soul.
Now we get to you, Miss Lisa. For your friends and fans, you are certainly deserving of a fan base. Great song, and I really do hope to hear more. If you could make a statement to your friends and fans, those who have been supportive of you and your music, whether Shiloh or where we're at now with Railroad Song, what would you wish to tell them?
Well, I hope you enjoy the music. And I hope that I can release some more music for you to enjoy. Thank you for your support. I know all my friends and family, they've always been encouraging, always supportive, always pushing me to do more. And I thank them for that. And I just thank everybody for their love and support. It's really touching.
Very cool. Well, Miss Lisa, we do sincerely thank you. It's been a long time coming, probably a year.
It was a year that I think I stumbled upon your message that just went into my junk messenger. And I'm like, what is this? I've never even seen this before. And I started looking at it. I'm like, well, who is this guy? You know, I'm like, who's this guy, Kent? And then I responded. I'm like, it's been a year. How terrible. But hey, it worked out great.
It worked out perfectly. You know, it certainly did. So, well, Miss Lisa, thank you for gracing us with this interview. And we're nearing toward the end, and Mike is our resident minister, of course. We always like to keep the main thing, which is the Lord and His Word. We like to honor Him for His gift of music and, His salvation toward us through His Son. And Mike's going to take us home with Scripture closeout. But if you don't mind, before you completely leave, just stick around one more moment after we close it out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Take us home, Mike.
Okay. So the easy go-to with this one would have been John 3:16 because the song actually mentions it.
Yeah.
But as I listened to this song more and more, it really brought to my mind more so Hebrews 12:1, just because the lyrics talking about, how the train gets rolling and you keep putting on the coal and you just keep moving forward. So I decided to go with Hebrews 12:1, which says, therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So
Awesome.
Very cool. Friends out there, we hope you enjoyed this. We got a unique perspective from Miss Lisa growing up Stryper, and her single really is great. You got to check her vocals out. She's wonderful. Miss Lisa, it's been wonderful to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
I got my ticket, I'm gonna take a ride. I got a feeling way down deep inside.
Welcome to our first episode of season 2 of the Area 3. Cut that. 312. Thank goodness we had it. Oh, start from scratch here. It's a bad hair day. It's bad hair day.
God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and